I tossed my empty wallet on the table. Mom didn't flinch. She didn't turn around. For the first time in my life, she didn't ask, "Do you still have money?" I just stood there, confused, a little scared. Then I snapped. I raised my voice. "Mom, I texted you days ago. I'm broke. Rent's due. Are you even listening?" Still nothing. Just the sound of water running at the sink. And then, a folded note placed quietly on the table. Her handwriting a little shaky. Just 4 words. "You're grown now. Handle it." I laughed. But it wasn't joy. It was a sound mixed with shame, panic, and pain. "So that's it?" I whispered. "You're giving up on me?" She didn't answer. She kept washing the dishes, like she'd finally washed her hands of saving me. If you're still listening, pause for a second. Have you ever leaned on your mom's love as if it were bottomless? A quick text, a soft excuse, and she came through every time. Until one day, she didn't. Don't be angry. That moment might be the greatest gift she's ever given you. I'm not proud of this, but I used to send those texts all the time. "Mom, can you send $200 real quick?" And she did. Without questions, without judgment. I thought she was kind. But what I didn't see was how I made her kindness a burden. I'm 27 now. My friends, they took risks, built things, failed, then got back up. Me? I sat in a place my mom paid for, ate food she ordered, wasted hours on games she once begged me to stop playing. And I told myself I was just figuring things out. I convinced myself I was just in a phase. But what I was lost. It took one silent answer and one quiet note to make me hear the truth. Love isn't just about rescue. It's also about letting go so the other person can stand up. That day, my mother didn't turn her back. She handed me my life back. And I've been learning how to carry it ever since. But this time, she didn't. No tears. No lecture. Just one line. "You're grown now. Handle it." I was angry. Then I felt hurt. Then, just hollow. That night, I stood in the kitchen, empty wallet in hand, heart full of blame, eyes searching for the mom who always saved me. I asked her, "If you love me, how could you leave me like this? Right now, when I need you the most?" She didn't look up, just placed a dish gently on the rack, dried her hands with a towel, and walked away. The door didn't slam. There was no sigh, no guilt tripping, no words, just the soft click of a mother finally stepping back. And that silence? That was the real answer. That night was the end. Not of her love, but of a cycle that should have ended years ago. Did it hurt? God, yes. It crushed me in a way money never could fix. Because for the first time in my life, no one was coming. No rent payment magically appearing. No, "You got this, sweetie" message. Just me. And the version of myself I'd been avoiding. I wasn't abandoned. I was released. Freed from the illusion that love means rescue. She loved me enough to stop being the crutch that kept me from walking. It's easy to confuse comfort with care. Easy to think giving is always loving. But sometimes, love says no. Sometimes, love closes the door, not out of anger, but because it's the only way you'll ever learn to knock. That night, she didn't give me money. She gave me a mirror. And in it, I saw a man who hadn't grown up because he was never asked to. So to any parent listening, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop fixing and start trusting. And to any son or daughter like me, don't wait until the money stops to realize You were supposed to stand up a long time ago. If you're in that place right now, pause. Just for a second. Don't scream like I did. Don't curse your mom for being cold. She's not cold. She's tired. Tired of patching the same hole in a sinking boat. She knows if she keeps saving you, you'll never learn what it means to stay afloat on your own. It took just one night. One night with my empty wallet on the table. A dying phone battery. No texts. No calls. No cash. Just me. Alone. With a truth I had been running from. A voice in my head kept echoing. She's not sending money anymore. She's not sending money anymore. And with that silence, I heard something louder than ever before. My own conscience. I didn't call. I didn't beg. I didn't guilt trip her with my sadness. I stood up, for the first time in years, and I worked, not on my resume, not on a post, but on myself. Still listening? If you ever hated your mom for not bailing you out when you were at your lowest, please think again. Maybe that was the moment. She was finally saving you from yourself. I used to treat my mom like a 24/7 atmospheres with a beating heart. I'd text, "Hey mom, short on cash." No explanation. No promise to repay. And 5 minutes later, ting ting. Once I just sent, "I'm broke." That was it. No context. She sent $200. And one line, "Eat well, don't stay up too late." I used to laugh about it. My friends joked, "Here comes the guy living off his mama's love." I'd joke back, "At least I got love to live off of." We laughed, but I was rotting inside. That night, scrolling TikTok, pretending everything was fine, I cried. Not because I was broke, but because I realized I couldn't make a single honest dollar on my own. I was nearly 30, and I was still living like a baby who refused to be weaned, a grown man stuck in the crib of his own comfort. I thought I was surviving, but really, I was slowly dying. Not the kind of death you read in headlines, but the kind where your soul hollows out, a sinkhole under your feet, formed from years of excuses, self-pity, and soft lies. Living selfishly, blaming others, expecting love to show up as cash. It's like pouring oil into your own drinking water. One day, the cup spills. The leak becomes a flood. And suddenly, you're drowning. Not because the world was cruel, but because you never learned to swim. So if you're young, still asking for money, still blaming your mom for being cold, ask yourself, is she being cruel? Or is she finally giving you the gift of becoming a person? Because real love doesn't coddle weakness. It lets you fall so you can rise. I remember the last time I video called mom. She picked up. The light in her room was dim. And in that dimness, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. More gray in her hair, her shoulders lower, her eyes tired, but still soft. I asked, "You doing okay, Mom?" She smiled just a little, then said gently, "I'm fine, but I'd probably feel better if you didn't ask for money again this month." I laughed it off, changed the subject, because facing her truth would mean facing mine. And still, she sent the money, wrapped every dollar in silence and care. Even though she knew her son spent his days scrolling nonsense, watching other people live while avoiding his own life. That's what moms do, right? They keep giving, even when their child stops being someone worth protecting. Once, she whispered on the phone, "I'm afraid if I stop sending it, you'll hate me." She was right. At that time, I would have, because I was no longer just broke. I was entitled. I couldn't tell the difference between sacrifice and spoiling. between love and enabling, and I took it all, year after year, like it was owed to me. So when she finally stopped, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt exposed. No yelling, no guilt, no drama, just stillness. One day passed. Then two. No texts. No, how are you? No, check your account. No, hang in there, sweetie. Just silence. At first, I was angry, then confused, then hollow, like someone sitting at the bottom of a sinkhole, dug by years of laziness, lies, and soft self-pity. And then came the final sound, like the last drop of water, leaking from a cracked cup I'd held for far too long. The silence wasn't punishment. It was release. I sat in the rental room she used to pay for, surrounded by trash, chip bags, beer cans, old ramen cups, a phone with 3% battery left. No job, no plan, no pride. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't poor. I was empty. I thought being poor meant not having money. But real poverty is not being able to create anything of value. Not for yourself. Not for anyone. That's the hidden hole. Not in the ground, but in us. We scroll, we numb, we take, until something sacred starts leaking out. Dignity, purpose, soul. And before we know it, we become a danger to our own future. Like a quiet disaster, forming slowly beneath the surface, until one day, the whole thing collapses. They call them Hotuthan in some places. Sinkholes. They swallow streets, houses, lives, not overnight, but after years of silent erosion. That was me. I used to blame everyone. Blame the system. Blame my past. Even blame her. But the truth? The truth is harder. The hole wasn't under me. It was in me. And for the first time in years, I wasn't ashamed I had no money. I was ashamed that I had never once deserved the money she gave me. I texted Mom one line. I get it now. She didn't reply. And for once, I didn't need her to. Because in that moment, something finally clicked. Mom didn't abandon me. She was saving me. Not with money. Not with comfort. But with distance. It was the only way left. I lasted 3 more days. $8 in my wallet. Some coins. A single pack of ramen. An energy drink. A pack of cigarettes gone in hours. The next morning, the landlord knocked. No smile. No mercy. Jason, today's the deadline. No money, you're out. I tried. Just a few more days. He didn't flinch. I already gave you 2 months. Then the sound. Click. Lock turned. Sharp. Final. Like life. Shutting the door on who I had become. I grabbed a backpack. A few shirts. My beat-up laptop. And an old notebook Mom once gave me. Pages still blank. I walked out. No destination. Just walking. Like a ghost with a name no one remembered. I called Mom. It rang. No answer. Again. Nothing. Texted. Mom, I'm out on the street now. No reply. I tried friends. 3 calls ignored. 2 texts back. Busy. No one asked. You okay? No one said. Come crash here. That's when I realized. This is what it feels like. When the world stops believing in you. When every bridge you leaned on burned silently from your own carelessness. This wasn't bad luck. This was cause and effect. I had poured poison into my own cup and kept drinking. I sat at an old bus stop. Cold. Wind cutting like shame. Stomach loud like a warning bell. I pulled out my phone. Hit record. Didn't know why. just needed to prove I still existed, that I hadn't vanished completely. In the sinkhole I dug with my own two hands, because that's what it was, a sinkhole, not in the street, inside me, formed from years of laziness, excuses, entitlement, and quiet acts of selfishness that looked small at the time, but added up like drops in a glass. Now it was overflowing. I used to think I was the victim. That life was unfair. But the truth is, I lived unfairly. I took without giving. I let my soul leak until the best parts of me evaporated. If you're hearing this, please, don't wait until the ground under your feet gives way. Don't wait for silence to scream louder than love. We are all just a few bad habits away from becoming the very hole we fall into. First video. No filter, no music, no script. Just a guy with empty eyes, shaking lips, and a camera lens that felt colder than the wind outside. I looked in, saw what I had become, then whispered, "This is the first time in my life no one came to save me. No tears. Tears don't buy you a bed. Tears don't fill your stomach." And I didn't curse anyone, didn't blame mom, didn't blame life, because deep down, I knew the only person responsible was me. Not just for being broke, but for living broke, morally, mentally, spiritually. Still here? Still listening? Then hear this. If you think your mom, your dad, your friends, your country, your luck will always show up for you, get ready, because one day they won't, Placid-mation. And that's not the end. That's the beginning of the climb, if you choose to take it. I stood in front of Mr. Jim's house. Old neighbor, Vietnam vet, the man who once yelled, "Freeloader," when I tore down the street on my bike with no helmet, no respect. Back then, I laughed, thought he was just bitter. Now, he was the only door I could knock on. I rang the bell. He opened it, looked me up and down. No shock, no pity, no warmth. He said, "Ain't got a chair for you, but I got a shovel." I stood there, frozen, confused, ashamed. Then he added, "I won't help you, but you can dig your own way out." He set the shovel on the porch, then closed the door, quietly, firmly. Finally, no speech, no hug, just cold air and a snow-covered sidewalk that stretched longer than my pride. But in that silence, something started to shift. For the first time, someone didn't try to save me. They handed me a tool, and the rest was on me. That sidewalk? It wasn't just snow. It was everything I had buried. With laziness, with lies, with borrowed love, and easy exits. And that shovel? It wasn't punishment. It was mercy. You see, sometimes God, or life, or your mom, stops handing you blankets, because they know what you need is a mirror, not to see your flaws, but to see your chance to change, before the hole inside you becomes a hole that swallows you, like the sinkholes on the news, silent, slow, until the earth splits open and the house, built on denial, vanishes. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to stop leaking. Stop letting the best parts of you drain out with every excuse, every shortcut, every later. Because there is a point when it's no longer just your life you're wasting, but your soul you're losing. I got to work. The metal shovel scraped the brick. Clink, clink, clink. It was like carving myself out. from the ice I'd been buried in for years. 15 minutes in, my hands went numb. 30 minutes. My shoulders screamed. Blood welled up under my fingernail. I hadn't noticed. Held on too tight. For too long. The wind cut across my face. The sun was out, but it felt like a stone pressed to my chest. People passed by. Some glanced. Most didn't. Can't blame them. I used to be invisible to my own damn life. By late morning, I started knocking on doors. Some smiled. Some didn't open. But then, an old lady, silver hair tucked in a knitted scarf, opened the screen. She looked down at me, sweat, grime, bleeding hands, and said, "It's not much, but you did good." Then pressed a crumpled $5 bill into my palm. I stared at that bill. My hands shook, not from the cold, but from something deeper. This was mine, not my mom's. Not a handout, not a guilt payment from someone who pitied me. Mine. Earned. Clean. And for the first time in years, I felt like a human again. You ever feel that? A single crumpled bill, with your blood under the fingernails and your pride stitched back together, one shovel scrape at a time. I sat down on the steps of a church, not to pray, just to breathe. Held that $5 up in the sunlight. Didn't cry, didn't smile. I just knew I had started climbing out of my own sinkhole. I bought a sandwich, cheapest one from the corner store. Some eggs slapped on white bread. $3. I shoved the other 2 deep in my pocket, like it was gold, like it mattered, because this time it did. I sat back down, unwrapped the sandwich, took a bite, and then I heard it. A soft whine. I turned. A stray dog. Ribs showing. Tail low. Didn't beg. Didn't bark. Just existed. Like I had, for years. I tore the sandwich in half. Held it out. Hey, I ain't you. But today, I'm not much better. It crept forward. Sniffed. Took the bread. Ate like it hadn't touched kindness in weeks. And I watched. Not with pity, but with recognition. That dog and I, we were both digging. Both tired. Both thin in places you couldn't see. But both still hungry for something more. And in that moment, I felt warm. Not because I'd eaten. Not because I had money. But because for the first time, I gave something. Without asking for anything back. That's how it starts. Not with glory. Not with a job offer or a second chance. It starts with sweat. With silence. With blood on your hands. But none on your conscience. That night, I went back to Jim's garage. Laid down on an old mattress. Damp, stained, cold as hell. The walls sweated. One light bulb dead. The air damp like guilt. My back froze against the floor. But you know what? I slept. Really slept. Not like a kid hiding from the world, but like a man, finally facing it. For the first time in years. I didn't owe anyone. Nobody paid for that mattress. Nobody texted, "Hang in there, son." No one checked in. And strangely, that silence was sacred, because all I had were these sore, raw hands, and the proof that I had finally stopped leaking my worth into other people's kindness. Next morning, I turned on the camera again. Same old face staring back. But something was different. Not younger, not stronger, just clearer. Second clip. No soundtrack. No edits. Just truth. First time I've ever felt money had value. Not because of how much, but because it came from sweat, from me. You ever earn $1 with your bare hands? Not from a screen. Not from guilt. Not wired from your mom. I mean $1 that came with blood under your fingernail and mud on your soul. If you have, you get it. That dollar doesn't just buy food. It buys back your dignity, your place in the world. It's not money. It's redemption. So I went home. No warning. No performance. No story to twist the facts. I didn't go back like a beggar. I went back like a man who had fallen into the hole he dug himself, but clawed out with his own hands. The house hadn't changed. Same squeaky iron gate. Same rose bush in the front yard. A little more brittle now. A few brown petals, but still trying to bloom, just like me. I stood at the door, lifted my hand to knock, but froze. Shame can make a man stutter. Without speaking, took a full minute to find the courage, to admit I was ready, to stop hiding behind someday. The door creaked, and there she was. More silver in her hair, more silence in her breath, her hands trembling, but not pulling away. She looked at me, not shocked, not mad, not broken, just steady. No lecture, no questions, no flashbacks, just 4 words, as warm as any hug. Come in, son. And in that moment, I didn't feel like a failure coming home. I felt like a seed, once buried in denial, finally breaking through. I stepped inside. Same smells. The old gas stove. Dried mint leaves in a jar above the sink. Mom's wool sweater still hanging behind the door, like it had waited too. I didn't sit, didn't explain. Just reached into my jacket, pulled out a crumpled envelope, and placed it on the table. I pushed it toward her. I didn't buy anything with it, but it's real money. From my hands. She looked at me, didn't touch it, just looked. Like silence had more meaning than words ever could. What did you do? She asked, barely above a whisper. Shoveled snow, cleaned some yards. Some folks gave me hot water. Some gave me cash. Did it hurt? Yeah. My hands bled. Felt like my shoulders cracked. But you still did it. I knew. If I didn't start, nobody else would start for me. She didn't cry. I didn't either. No drama. No violins. Just 2 people. Finally, speaking the same language, earned respect. Then she reached out, placed her hand on the envelope, held it for a moment. Not to keep it, but to feel it, like touching the soil, after a long drought. Then gently, she slid it back to me. Keep it. It might still get cold out there. But I know, this time, you're warm on the inside. I smiled, didn't speak. There was nothing more to explain. Some truths don't need explaining. Some transformations only become real when witnessed in silence. She brought out a bowl of soup. Not special because of the seasoning, but because it was that soup. The one from when I was 6. Sick on the couch, wrapped in scarves, while she sat beside me, feeding me, spoon by spoon. Remember this smell? She asked. Soft, like the question might break something inside me. I nodded. Scooped a spoonful. It was too hot. A little bland, but I ate it slowly, like I was tasting the part of me that used to believe in warmth. Neither of us said much. Just the quiet sound of a spoon tapping porcelain and the tick-tick of the wall clock above the stove, reminding me how far time had gone and how lucky I still was to have someone waiting behind a door that didn't lock. Mom stood up, quietly, went to the stove, poured a cup of tea. She slid it toward me. without a word, didn't meet my eyes. She just stared out the window, where the last golden light of the day spilled across the porch like memory. Then she spoke. Soft, so soft, it felt like she was talking to the wind. I once prayed for you to struggle. I looked up. She didn't blink, didn't shift, just kept her gaze out there far beyond the glass. Not so you'd hurt, but so you'd grow. I put the spoon down, and tears came. Not loud, not broken, no sobbing, just one drop, then another. For the first time in my life, I cried because I was grateful, not because I was scared, not because I felt abandoned, not because I wanted anything, just grateful. She didn't wipe my tears, didn't say, "It's okay," didn't reach across the table. She just sat there, one hand gently resting on the teacup, like she had waited years for that one tear to fall. "Mom," I tried, but the words cracked midway. She shook her head, slow, soft, kind. "You don't need to say anything. I already know." Then came silence again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't regret. It felt light, like a breath, finally exhaled after years of being held in too long. "You still with me? If you ever thought your mom wanted you to suffer, maybe she just wanted you to rise. Not out of pain, but out of smallness, out of excuses, out of the hole you kept digging with your own hands." Sometimes, healing doesn't come with fanfare. Sometimes, it starts with a quiet dinner, a bowl of hot soup, and a tear that doesn't fall out of weakness, but out of awakening. A tear that whispers, "I finally get it, Mom, and I'm not going back." I swallowed hard. My voice slowed. "Then you'll understand. The one person who never threw you out, the last person still believing in you, was the one you pushed away the most. Your mom." I turned off the camera. No edits. No filters. No captions. Just saved it. As a marker. A line in time. A quiet flag in the dirt. I was starting to come back to myself. And somehow, I still had a mother to come back to. The next morning, I knocked on Mr. Jim's door. Not for a bed. Not for a loan. Not to plead. I came to ask, to learn. He squinted, leaned against the doorframe like he'd seen ghosts before. "What do you want to learn?" "Woodwork," I said. He didn't nod, didn't smile, just turned, walked back inside. A minute later, he returned with an old apron, stiff with sawdust, stained with years. "Tie this. Mess up once, I'll watch. Mess up twice, I'll yell. Mess up 3 times. You clean the whole damn shop." He wasn't joking. And I didn't laugh. That little shop smelled like pine, sweat, and time. The walls cracked. The floor groaned. The saw? Older than me. But when I stepped inside, it felt more real than any place I'd been in years. No apps. No buzzes. No mother to rescue me. Just me. The wood and the hum of blades biting through grain, like truth cuts through denial. Day 1. I split the plank, sanded it too thin, bent the nails, left a mess. Jim didn't curse, didn't mock. He just stared at the splintered board and said, "The wood doesn't scream, but you'll feel the pain when you realize how valuable it was before you ruined it." I nodded, not with pride, but with humility, the kind that doesn't speak, just listens. That night, I stayed behind. No one told me to. I swept every corner, wiped down every blade, tucked every tool in its place. like it had a name. Then I sat down, next to a pile of shavings, took out my phone, and filmed clip 4. No filters. No music. Just me. Sweaty, sore, with scratched up hands, and a soul that finally felt honest. And I said, I used to think a clever mind was enough. But now I know, if your hands can't carve something straight, your life might stay crooked too. That night, I stayed behind to clean the shop. Dust clung to my sleeves. My fingers stung. The broom scraped across the floor, like it was brushing away the years I'd wasted. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel useless. I felt grounded. I sat on a crate in the corner, opened my phone, and hit record. No script, no lighting, no edits. Just me, raw and worn out. Day 1, I said quietly. I messed up everything. Bent the nails, cracked the wood. My arms are shaking. My back's wrecked. But I didn't quit. I held up my hand, blistered and red, a map of where failure had touched, but not conquered me. This isn't shame. This is proof I showed up. The next morning, I came back. Still shaky, still slow, but my cuts, straighter. My grip, steadier. My eyes, clearer. By the end of the week, I built a shelf, 3 levels. Pine wood. The legs wobbled. The finish was rough. The stain uneven. But it stood. And so did I. I took a photo, posted it online with a simple caption. Handmade shelf, first one. Local delivery. Didn't expect much. But 2 hours later, someone messaged, still available, I've been needing something just like this. She paid $20. Cash. Didn't haggle. Didn't ask for a discount. Just smiled and said, it's got charm. I walked back to the shop. With that bill in my hand, creased, a little damp from my palm, but heavier than any money I'd ever held. I didn't blow it. Didn't spend it. Didn't frame it, though part of me wanted to. I folded it in half, slipped it into an envelope, and wrote 5 shaky words. For Mom, from your son. I didn't leave it to repay her. You can't put a price on forgiveness. I left it, to say something I didn't know how to say out loud. I'm building something now, and I'm not walking away this time. That night, I didn't celebrate, didn't go out, didn't post anything. I just sat in the shop, lights off, letting the quiet hold me, like a blanket I hadn't earned, but was finally learning to respect. I unfolded the $20 bill again, ran my thumb along its edge. Not much, I know, but in that moment, it felt sacred, not because of what it could buy, but because of what it proved. I made this, with my own hands. No shortcuts, no help, no lies, just sweat, splinters, and the slow rebuilding of someone I used to run from, myself. I grabbed a small envelope from the drawer, slipped the bill inside, then wrote 5 quiet words on the front. For Mom, from your son. I didn't send it. Not yet. I just stared at it, hands still dirty, heart still full, because I knew one day she'd open it, and she wouldn't just see money. She'd see the beginning of a man. The next morning, Mr. Jim handed me a new plank. Try a bench this time, he said. I blinked. A whole bench? He shrugged. You want to build something, or stay small forever? It was the first time he didn't call me dumb, didn't test me, just trusted me, quietly. So I got to work. The plank was thick, heavy, knots twisted through the grain, like puzzles waiting for patience. But I didn't rush, didn't cut corners. Didn't try to make it perfect. I tried to make it honest. Because this time, I understood something I hadn't before. A bench can't hold someone if the one who built it. I just smiled. Not wide, not forced, just soft. Because in that moment, I wasn't the guy who'd lost everything. I was the man who built something with purpose. Something simple, something real, something that might help a little girl remember her mother's love forever. And maybe that's the point. We grow up thinking redemption comes in grand scenes, tears, reunions, dramatic music and applause. But the truth is, sometimes it arrives in the shape of a small wooden box with a fake lock and a real reason to exist. That night, I stayed late in the workshop, didn't build anything, didn't record a video, didn't post. I just sat there, oiling the tools, running my fingers over the bench I'd sanded smooth 100 times before. The air smelled like cedar and dust. No music, no phone buzzing, no distractions. Just breath, steady. And mine. I thought of Mom, of her tea, her silence, her hands that spoke more than words ever could, her way of loving, without needing to be thanked. And in that moment, I whispered, not to her, not to anyone, but to something inside me that had been waiting quietly all this time. I'm okay now. I really am. Never learned to carry himself. She didn't move, didn't smile, but I saw it. The way her shoulders relaxed. Just a little. Like a burden she'd carried. Quietly, for years, had finally been set down. Not with noise, but with peace. And that was enough. I turned back to my table, adjusted a small wooden sign that had tilted in the breeze, brushed the sawdust off the corner of a box I'd finished the night before. Simple, but clean. Small, but honest. A little girl pointed at it. Her dad leaned down and said, "Let's ask the man who made it." The man who made it. Not the guy who used to crash on couches. Not the son who once ignored every call. Not the dropout. Not the mistake. Today, I was the man who made something with his hands, something that held meaning, something that would last, and somehow that made everything feel new. Not perfect, not fixed, but new. Like the first morning after a long winter where the ground hasn't bloomed yet, but it's finally soft again. Mom didn't nod, didn't cry. She just smiled softly. A slight tilt of the head, barely there, but enough. Enough for me to know. She understood. The sun caught her silver hair, and I stood still, no longer the boy who lived off her strength and called it survival. She turned away. Slow, the breeze caught her scarf, and her shoulders moved, lighter than I'd ever seen. She didn't say a word. Didn't look back. She didn't need to. Because now, she walked like a mother who knew her son had finally found his own road. I watched her go. My hand slipped into my coat pocket, pulling out a folded scrap of paper. Edges worn, ink faded, but her handwriting still clear. "You're grown now. Take care of yourself." I read it one last time, folded it, slid it into my wallet, not as a keepsake, but as a reminder. Someone once believed I could.